The glittering chandeliers, the lavish banquet tables, and the seemingly harmless diplomatic smiles unexpectedly turned a solemn state banquet at Windsor Castle into the epicenter of a global wave of criticism. In a moment meant only for polite handshakes and clinking glasses of wine, French President Emmanuel Macron shocked the British public when he was caught winking at Princess Catherine. Yes, not a casual or accidental social gesture, but an act widely deemed as blatant flirting, unprofessional, and especially rude, particularly with Prince William and Macron's own wife standing just a few steps away. The incident quickly spread across social media like a wildfire over dry grass. Some were outraged, others shocked, and many did not hesitate to call it a royal insult in broad daylight. While Princess Catherine had just returned after a courageous battle with cancer and was being hailed as a new symbol of British resilience, Macron's behavior felt like a slap in the face to public sentiment. And behind this scandal lies one truth clearer than ever: William and Catherine are increasingly standing strong as the shining pillars of the British royal family, completely contrasting with the struggling and controversial image of Harry and Meghan in the United States. In what seemed like a harmless moment under the shimmering lights of Windsor's Grand Hall, French President Emmanuel Macron unintentionally triggered a public relations bomb. As the royal orchestra played a solemn symphony and glasses clinked in polite toasts, all eyes were on Princess Catherine, the woman who had just bravely overcome a serious illness, when an unexpected wink from the French president made the otherwise dignified atmosphere suddenly feel suffocating and tense. Just minutes after footage of the banquet aired live, social media in the UK and France exploded. A clip from the broadcast showed Macron leaning toward Princess Catherine with what was described as an over-enthusiastic smile, followed by a heavily implied wink. Immediately, waves of users reacted furiously, not just out of surprise, but because it crossed the line of what is considered appropriate at a high-level state banquet between two nations. Angela Levin, a well-known royal biographer, tweeted bluntly, "That wink was extremely rude. Catherine is a married woman and a royal icon, not someone to be made the subject of jokes," but it didn't stop there. Peter Lloyd, a British journalist and TV presenter, took the tension up a notch by posting a shocking statement: "Deport Macron immediately. No one is allowed to insult our princess on British soil." Under the post, thousands of comments voiced agreements, with many even calling Macron the winking Napoleon, a jab at his overconfidence and inappropriate demeanor during a ceremony as symbolic as the Windsor state banquet. What's notable is that this isn't the first time President Macron has been accused of crossing the line in terms of overly familiar communication. In the past, he was caught keeping his arm around a female world leader for too long during a G7 summit, or giving what was deemed unprofessional looks at a Cannes film event. With the Windsor incident, even the smallest gestures were placed under intense scrutiny, not out of pettiness, but because the person at the center of it all was none other than Princess Catherine, the woman now seen as the embodiment of the British royal family's rebirth and dignity. Many argue that kissing the hand of Princess Catherine or Queen Camilla can be seen as acceptable within the context of French diplomacy, where politeness is sometimes expressed through more intimate gestures. But this time, it was Macron's gaze, his expressions, and body language that truly infuriated the public. Because when seen in the context of Princess Catherine having just triumphed over cancer and returning to public life after a long absence, the gesture wasn't just insensitive, it was downright disrespectful. Some more moderate voices labeled it a diplomatic mishap, a small slip that could be forgiven. But the majority didn't agree. Because the image of Catherine that evening wasn't just that of a princess attending a banquet. She was the embodiment of inner strength, of loyalty to the nation, and of a mother and wife who had overcome pain to stand by her husband in the most sacred of duties. Macron's gaze, whether intentional or not, was seen as crossing a sacred boundary, where the British people have placed their deepest respect and emotional investment in the one living symbol left after the era of Queen Elizabeth II. The atmosphere grew even more tense when rumors emerged that Prince William had frowned in displeasure after that suspicious moment. Although there was no official confirmation from the palace, body language experts pointed out that William slightly turned his body, gripped his wine glass tightly, and exchanged a glance with an aide right after the winking incident. For someone as famously composed as William, even the smallest gesture was enough to spark speculation in the media. Meanwhile, the Élysée Palace's communications team chose to remain silent, neither denying nor defending the gesture, which only intensified the wave of criticism. Some French newspapers tried to defend their president by calling it a polite French gesture, misunderstood in British culture. But the cultural difference, if it existed, was not enough to overshadow the sense of offense felt by the British public. Once again, the incident highlighted the stark contrast between the two royal couples, William and Catherine, and Harry and Meghan. While the Duke of Sussex continued to immerse himself in tearful interviews and controversial television deals, William and Catherine maintained their unshakable position as the steady pillars of the British royal family. And that very status makes any gesture directed toward them, even a fleeting glance, a symbolic matter, where public sentiment, memory, and royal honor collide. The state banquet, which was supposed to be a harmonious celebration of diplomacy and friendship between two nations, was turned into a media storm with no signs of calming down, all because of one untimely moment involving the wrong person. And in the midst of that storm, one thing became clearer than ever: Princess Catherine, though only recently stepping back into the spotlight, remained the undeniable center of attention. She didn't need to respond or retaliate, because her calm silence and composed gaze alone were enough for the world to understand respect cannot be measured by ceremony, but must come from genuine grace. And then, just as the air still lingered with admiration for the princess, a fleeting moment shifted the mood entirely. Under the dazzling lights of Windsor Castle's Grand Hall, a place that had witnessed countless historic moments of the British monarchy, Princess Catherine stepped in like a living symbol of rebirth. It was her first appearance at a state banquet since 2023, the year the entire nation held its breath, following her battle with cancer. And tonight, dressed in an elegant ivory Dior gown, adorned with the lotus tiara and eyes shining with quiet pride, the Princess of Wales made an undeniable statement. She had not just returned, she had come back stronger than ever. Catherine walked beside Prince William with a graceful yet powerful presence. Her gaze didn't just capture the lenses of the media, but touched the hearts of millions watching the ceremony from their screens. After months of retreating to heal and recover, she emerged like a warrior from the shadows, no longer a fragile royal daughter-in-law, but a future queen with an unbreakable spirit. While other members like Princess Anne and Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, played their ceremonial supporting roles, it was clear the spotlight tonight belonged to Catherine, and Catherine alone. Social media erupted the moment her first photos were released. From Twitter to Instagram, a flood of comments praised her radiant beauty, regal aura, and the confidence in every step she took. Many didn't hesitate to call her the new light of the British monarchy, a symbol of modern courage, while pictures of her standing beside William were shared millions of times within just a few hours. A wave of emotion and admiration spread, as if the public had long been waiting for this very moment. The moment Catherine not only returned to her public role, but reaffirmed her irreplaceable place in the hearts of the British people. Yet amidst the applause and admiring glances, there were still whispers, subtle yet sharp, directed at the princess's fashion choice. The Dior gown, with its refined cuts, high neckline, and flowing train, was said to be more than just fashion. It was a silent statement. Many quickly noticed the resemblance and contrast to outfits previously worn by Meghan Markle at international events. In particular, when recalling Meghan's Dior dress that was once mocked by South Park as fake and over the top, Catherine's refined and elegant choice this time felt like a quiet but pointed response. Public opinion began dissecting every detail from the Dior brand, favored by both royal women, to the choice of accessories, hairstyle, and posture beside their spouses. Catherine did not need to say a word, but through her gaze and demeanor alone, she compelled people to weigh the difference between two images on one side: simplicity, elegance, and composure; on the other, loud declarations and an endless string of scandals. Catherine's presence at the state banquet carried an even deeper message. The British monarchy was not weakened by recent upheavals, but rather was solidifying its position through resilient figures like her. After the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the fractured relationship between William and Harry, and the never-ending controversies surrounding Harry and Meghan, Catherine emerged as the bridge between tradition and modernity, between public affection and the symbolic power of the monarchy. It wasn't just the British press that caught on. International media quickly followed suit. France's Le Figaro called Catherine the modern aristocratic icon of Europe, while the New York Times described her as a model of a royal woman rising above adversity with grace and iron discipline. Germany's Bild even ran a bold headline of Catherine, the steel princess in a reborn monarchy. These accolades did not stem from emotion, but clearly reflected the impact she created: a princess who not only triumphed over illness, but also over prejudice and the skeptical gazes that once surrounded her. And if one looked more closely, it was clear Catherine was not alone that night. By her side stood Prince William, not just her husband, but her most loyal ally through every upheaval. The two walked in perfect unity, representing not only a royal marriage, but a symbol of resilience, harmony, and intellect. While in another world, Harry and Meghan continued to grapple with media projects, entertainment contracts, and waves of criticism. William and Catherine remained silent, yet the world listened. The contrast stood out starkly like light and shadow, turning what seemed like a mere diplomatic banquet into a silent battlefield between two royal images. On one side, a messy past; on the other, a present full of hope. And at the center of it all was none other than Catherine, the woman who had walked through moments of life and death, only to return not just to draw every eye in the room, but to make an entire nation remember. It was not simply a return from illness, it was the return of a living symbol. A powerful reminder that the British monarchy, despite all its storms, could still rise from the ashes through the dignity and grace of individuals like her. Beneath dazzling crystal chandeliers and the echoes of symphonic music in the magnificent hall of Windsor Castle, the diplomatic atmosphere seemed to be held at its most perfect balance. But in a seemingly inconspicuous corner of that lavish scene, a brief conversation between Prince William and French President Emmanuel Macron immediately became the focus of lip-reading experts, media, and devoted royal watchers. A statement made with an air of casualness, yet loaded with deep meaning, to the extent that it was considered a clever counter to the French president's awkward behavior. According to a renowned British lip-reading expert, during his exchange with Macron, William suddenly emphasized his height. "I'm 6'3". A remark that appeared simple, but was made at precisely the right moment in context, right after Emmanuel Macron had been accused of flirting with Princess Catherine with a questionable wink during this solemn event. In contrast, Macron, with his modest height of about 5'7", responded with a polite laugh, but the comparison did not go unnoticed. It served as a wordless signal, a message both firm and noble, that Catherine was not only cherished, but also protected, through the very image and imposing presence of her husband. More notably, in this conversation, King Charles did not remain on the sidelines. When Macron remarked, "William is really tall," the king promptly agreed, "Yes, he is very tall," a confirmation that seemed like a polite addition to the exchange, but in fact added strength to William's unspoken message. In the world of diplomacy, where every gesture and word is carefully calculated, any comparison of height, a traditional symbol of power and protection, carries a certain psychological weight. And here why William subtly positioned himself as a steadfast husband, an unshakable protector beside Catherine, the woman who had just returned to the spotlight after her battle with a serious illness. Images circulating on social media clearly showed the contrast in body language between William and Macron. While the French president bent a bit excessively when kissing Catherine's hand, a gesture that, though possibly defended as French custom, was viewed as somewhat showy and beyond decorum, William remained upright and dignified. He consistently leaned slightly toward his wife, his eyes watching every interaction, and his hand often rested lightly behind Catherine's back like an invisible shield. These small details were enough to affirm the composed and refined control of the prince. On online forums, royal watchers quickly shared videos and images of the 6-3 moment. "That's not just a number, that's a warning," wrote one well-known Twitter account specializing in body language analysis. William doesn't need to say it outright. He just needs to stand tall, and perhaps, at a nationally significant event, a sharp look and a carefully placed remark could carry the weight of an entire diplomatic speech. Some media analysts even argued that William's action was the most brilliant response to Macron's carelessness. Not loud, not confrontational, but deeply effective. Emphasizing his height was not merely a reminder of physical difference, but also of standing and etiquette. Catherine is the future queen consort of the United Kingdom, not just a beautiful woman, but a national symbol. And no one, not even the head of another nation, has the right to cross the boundary of courtesy under the guise of personal charm. As for King Charles, his participation in that conversation was no coincidence. Until now, he had rarely shown such clear public support for William. But in this appearance, Charles chose the perfect moment to stand with his son in asserting the unity of the royal family, especially as Catherine made her return and was receiving overwhelming public sympathy. The statement, "he is very tall," was not merely a compliment on stature. It was the king's way of sending a message: the heir to the throne is not only worthy of his position, but knows how to protect the most important people in his life. That seemingly dry state banquet suddenly became a stage for subtle sparring between two worlds on one side, the composed, understated elegance of British nobility. On the other, the overly romantic French flair, where even a casual wink could shake the entire ceremonial atmosphere. And in the midst of those two styles, William embodied the perfect image of Britain's heir, firm without arrogance, protective without show, assertive while maintaining noble composure. No one from the royal family needed to step forward to clarify Macron's overstep, because with just one number, 6-3, the boundaries had already been drawn. And more importantly, the message William delivered wasn't a direct warning to the French president, but a silent, powerful declaration to the world. Princess Catherine is not alone. She has a husband who stands by her side, a future king who not only knows how to rule, but how to shield the heart that Britain loves and watches over each day. And as the lights dimmed in the Windsor Hall after the banquet, as the tables were cleared and the conductor lowered his baton, the echo of a seemingly casual statement still lingered in people's minds: "I'm 6'3". A reminder that in the world of crowns and crests, what makes a true king is not just the throne, but the way he stands up to protect the woman he loves. But while the spotlight was shining on William and Catherine as proof of the British monarchy's powerful resurgence, across the Atlantic, Harry and Meghan were struggling in a reality that was entirely the opposite, where the crown had fallen from their heads, and the spotlight now only illuminated bitter failures. As Catherine quietly entered Windsor's Grand Hall in an elegant Dior gown, praised worldwide as an unyielding symbol of the monarchy, Meghan appeared on social media with a heavy gaze and words laced with anger. While the sound of clinking glasses echoed through the castle, where Catherine was welcomed like a true queen, Meghan was giving speeches at women's empowerment webinars. But the audience was no longer an adoring public, only small communities offering sparse support. The difference lay not only in geography, but in stature, in public sentiment, and in the level of respect within the same family that once honored both women. On social media, a photo of Harry sitting alone on a bench in a small Santa Barbara park was shared tens of thousands of times with the caption, "From Buckingham Palace to Park Bench, the journey away from the light." Meghan, once hailed as the modern princess, was now often referred to as the one who burned the bridge to the throne. The biting commentary was relentless. William protects Catherine like a modern-day knight. And where is Harry, while Meghan unleashes podcasts of grievances, one Twitter user mocked. And painfully, this was no longer a rare jab. It reflected a reality increasingly accepted by the public, while William and Catherine represented a monarchy standing firm in crisis. Harry and Meghan had become symbols of distance, disarray, and instability. The state banquet at Windsor felt like a silent stage where every character had been clearly cast. Catherine, the woman who had just emerged from the shadow of illness, appeared as a vivid embodiment of resilience. William, without fanfare, with just one remark about his height, asserted the stance of a protector. Meanwhile, far away, Harry and Meghan could only attend the banquet through news headlines, shared images, and a silent sense of regret. Many royal commentators pointed out bluntly Catherine's presence at the banquet wasn't just a royal moment. It was a direct blow to what Meghan had once tried to build. Over the years, Meghan had repeatedly told her story of being hurt in the palace. But now, Catherine, the woman who had remained the most silent, was being hailed as the ideal model of a future queen. The contrast raised a thorny question. Did Meghan leave too soon, or did she simply never truly understand the rules of the game within Britain's most powerful family? In a recent article, the Daily Mail boldly declared Harry and Meghan have severed the ties to the foundation that made their names. Meanwhile, William and Catherine, though tested, though wounded, have steadfastly upheld their roles. And in return, they have been rewarded with the trust of the people. Even American media experts have begun turning their backs on the Sussexes. One comment on Fox News' morning show stated, William and Catherine have weathered the storm, risen from adversity. They don't need to complain. They let action and dignity speak for them. Meghan, on the other hand, talks too much. Harry and Meghan's financial situation has also become a subject of relentless discussion. After a series of failed deals, including the termination of their podcast contract with Spotify, the couple is now reportedly struggling to maintain their lavish lifestyle. A financial insider revealed they once hoped to become Hollywood's billion-dollar couple. But after a few years, Meghan is mostly mentioned for her expensive outfits, and Harry keeps retelling the same worn-out story of childhood pain. Worse still, they are no longer invited to important royal events. When King Charles holds state banquets, when William delivers speeches before world leaders, and when Catherine returns as the powerful Princess of Wales, Harry and Meghan's names are completely absent from the guest list. Not because they're banned, but because their status is no longer part of the monarchy's symbolic moments. And most notably, their absence hasn't caused public regret. On the contrary, many believe the Sussexes' absence makes royal events feel less dramatic, less conflicted, and above all, less burdened by division. A veteran BBC commentator wrote, for the first time in years, a royal state banquet truly felt like a pure event. No scandalous shadows, no lurking cameras waiting to catch a sideways glance. All of this shows while Catherine and William are steadily regaining the hearts of the people through steadfastness and subtlety. Harry and Meghan, by their own choices, have lost far more than they ever imagined. And while the lights at Windsor have not yet completely dimmed, with the echoes of the violins still ringing in the night air, one thing becomes clear: the throne of public honor cannot be bought with media contracts, but must be built with trust step by step, action by action, and with silence at the right time. And in that moment, as the people quietly begin distinguishing the line between admiration and disappointment, the image of Harry and Meghan becomes even more out of place. Once capturing the world's attention with every step and every declaration, they are now the main characters in news headlines that bring little pride royal couple in financial crisis, Netflix cuts support, podcast contract canceled, or worse, famous friends turn their backs. These headlines are no longer warning signs, they are alarm signals. No one expected that just a few years after leaving the royal family, Harry and Meghan could fall so fast. In London, They were symbols of a fresh breeze, representatives of hope for a more progressive monarchy. But in California, behind the glamorous walls of their Montecito mansion, they lost the one thing that had once set them apart: a genuine connection with the public. The British people were once angry, once nostalgic, but then stopped caring. And in the media world, indifference is the cruelest thing. When Meghan was accused of behaving autocratically towards staff, making people call her Meghan Sussex as if it were a royal title, many former admirers began feeling uneasy. They could no longer nod in support as before. The TV shows that had once lined up to invite Meghan as a guest now grew silent. Drew Barrymore, once praising Meghan as a feminist icon, no longer mentioned her publicly. The relationships painstakingly built in Hollywood now crumbled one by one like a sandcastle before the wind. Even worse, the projects that were meant to be their media weapons backfired. Spare, Harry's emotionally raw memoir, was initially expected to be a bestseller and generate empathy. But the more people read, the more they saw a man still trapped in the shadows of his past, rather than a new leader with vision. Instead of rallying support, Harry made the public feel, we're in. And as Meghan prepares to launch her new lifestyle brand in hopes of reviving their image, the press quickly exposed backstage stories that were far from flattering. Rumors of excessive control, unreasonable demands of partners, and cold treatment of former collaborators, all of it forming pieces that could never be assembled into a perfect image. In this picture, Harry's silence at recent events only deepens public questioning. Has he realized that the cost of turning away from the monarchy isn't just losing titles, but losing himself? In a world where every move is scrutinized under a media microscope, failures are not counted in minutes, but in consequences that stretch for years. As William and Catherine step onto the international stage with poise and resilience forged through storms, Harry and Meghan, even if trying to rise again, are pulled down by the very decisions they thought were courageous. And now, as the world looks at Britain with admiration for the monarchy's powerful revival, the couple who once wanted to rewrite history becomes a bitter reminder. Reputation can be lost in an instant if you think that simply attracting attention is enough to endure. And as if to blow fresh fuel on the embers, Meghan's July 4th social media post for the U.S. Independence Day quickly became a topic of public and press discussion. No sign of Harry, no image of their two children, just a series of old, poorly assembled photos, including a scene previously seen in the Netflix documentary back in 2022, and a video clip of Meghan smiling while eating a strawberry in bright sunlight, repeated as if time had stopped for her since leaving the monarchy. But that very deliberate absence of Harry and the children during a sacred family holiday such as Independence Day only fuels suspicion about the true state of the marriage that once made global headlines. The public cannot help but wonder, is something cracking behind the scenes? Has the model family Meghan worked so hard to build become merely a crumbling media facade? Media image analysts quickly dissected every frame, every expression, every detail in Meghan's video. And one thing became obvious: it wasn't natural happiness, but a script crafted to reassure the public or herself. Some popular Twitter and Reddit accounts bluntly stated, Meghan is trying to create a false reality. But her audience isn't innocent anymore. Comments like "image so curated, it lost its soul," or "when a woman eats a strawberry alone on Independence Day, something isn't right," began to spread at lightning speed. The absence of Harry from the post, while he continues to make rare, quiet public appearances, only deepens public suspicion. Could it be that the powerful couple who once vowed to change the world together have now chosen to walk on separate, parallel paths? Meghan's decision not to share any recent photos of their two children leaves many feeling disappointed, especially when contrasted with the warm, intimate family images William and Catherine share. In this battle of image, Meghan is gradually losing ground. Many believe that July 4th post was not just a media-savvy scoring attempt, but a signal of a private crisis unfolding in silence. After a series of commercial failures and negative media reactions, Meghan may be scrambling to salvage her image before everything collapses. But instead of invoking empathy, the vintage photos and staged videos only underscore the growing distance between her and the public who once expected a transformative icon, but now see a star floundering to reclaim lost glory. Meanwhile, as America celebrated with dazzling fireworks, that seemingly harmless post became a symbol of something else: Meghan's growing isolation in both the media sphere and her private world. One post, one frame, one smile on video, none of it now expresses happiness, but reflects what everyone senses but no one dares to say. Meghan is alone in the story she once believed she controlled. Amid the brilliant lights and refined applause of the state banquet night, a silent but powerful message emerged: the British royal family with Catherine, William, Princess Anne, and Sophie not only appeared, they shone brightly as living symbols of dignity and unity. Every step they took was calculated not only to exhibit royal poise, but to emphasize that this institution remains smoothly operating, professional, and undeterred by any diplomatic controversy from overshadowing its core values. Even when President Macron faced criticism for his flirtatious wink at Princess Catherine, the royals did not waver. They maintained their composure, coldly yet gravely, no complaints, no public responses, no moment caught off guard by the media, because they understand the monarchy's reputation cannot depend on others' conduct. It must be upheld by internal strength. And at the center of it all, Catherine, having emerged from a life-and-death battle with cancer, became the symbol of rebirth. Not just a fashion icon in a stunning Dior gown, but proof of extraordinary recovery. No grand speeches needed; her presence alone spoke volumes, and that presence made millions around the world pause, then nod in admiration. The Princess of Wales has returned, stronger, calmer, and more reverent than ever. By contrast, across the ocean, the puzzling silence of Harry and Meghan during this significant royal event only fueled public curiosity. No congratulations, no gesture of connection with the family, and of course, no presents. They have truly been cut out of the big game, not pushed out, but by their own choices. By stepping away from the monarchy with a string of accusations and sensational media deals, Harry and Meghan severed the final tie to the center of power that once belonged to them. And now, as the royal family gradually repositions itself before a global audience through the images of William and Catherine, Harry and Meghan have become fading shadows behind them. The couple who once declared we wanted to live freely now confront the high price of freedom, isolation from real moments, real symbols, and worth and real power. Therefore, this state banquet was not merely a diplomatic reception. It was a silent declaration carrying weight: the British monarchy is still calling the shots. And when Catherine stepped forward with a confident smile beside William, the world understood that the throne of honor, something not granted by decree, is growing sturdier in the hands of those worthy. President Macron's indiscreet behavior toward Princess Catherine at Windsor's banquet sparked an unprecedented wave of controversy, but what truly commanded the world's attention was not the wink itself, but Catherine's response: an unshakable composure, an unwavering gaze, and the aura of a queen without a throne, yet more powerful than anyone who has ever worn a crown. No rebuttal, no frown. She stood amid the storm of words as a sovereign of silence. Prince William, with impressive stature and resolute gaze, needed no words to defend his wife. His very presence conveyed a resolute message: the monarchy remains a fortress, and Catherine is the cherished gem no one may touch. Together, William and Catherine are no longer just a royal couple. They represent a new generation where reputation is not forged in controversy, but built through action, loyalty, and the ability to overcome adversity. Meanwhile, on the other side of the royal wall, Harry and Meghan seem to be sinking deeper into crisis: financial decline, fractured reputation, and a status that is gradually becoming a thing of the past. Their silence at a time when the royal family is shining feels like an unspoken admission that the spotlight which once belonged to them has truly faded. This story, at its core, is not merely a diplomatic scandal or a silent confrontation between two worlds. It is a vivid testament to the enduring strength of the British monarchy, an institution that has weathered countless storms but remains standing thanks to those who uphold dignity. Catherine does not need to make noise to assert herself, because in a world spinning in illusions and vanity, elegance and resilience are what create lasting appeal. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson left behind by the night of the state banquet, that loyalty, self-respect, and calm fortitude, though not flashy, are timeless values, especially for a monarchy stepping into a new era.